Hey everybody, just thought I'd make this recording for the first time that I'm speaking about my ayahuasca experience 4 days ago. I'll kick off 20 minutes after taking the ayahuasca, when I actually started having visions, and I just wanted to just note down what I saw before I talk about it to anybody. Just so it's the raw version of what I witnessed. So here we go. After 20 minutes after taking the ayahuasca, I stood up from where I was seated, and I thought I was sober. And I walked over to the fire, and I stood there looking at the fire, and it was really dim. In fact, everything around me was very, very dark, and the fire was very, very dim. And I stood there looking, and I thought I was sober, but I could hear people, already going into their experiences. Some people vomiting, some people shouting something, a sort of inaudible words. And I was standing there, and all of a sudden I felt somebody grab my shoulder and pull me backwards, and it was the shaman. And he was looking at me, and he said, you've walked into the fire. And I was looking at him, and I thought, what? I'm just standing by the fire. And I looked down, and I'd actually walked into it unknowingly. And he said to me, are you okay? And I went to reply, and I couldn't speak. I wanted to say no, but I wasn't able to say the word. And with that, a woman came running from behind him and come up to me, and he said, take him and sit down. And she looked at me and she said, are you okay? And I had this feeling, it was like when I was a teenager, the same feeling, like just unable to say that I'm not okay. I wanted to say it, I could think of the word no, but I wasn't actually able to physically say it. And she was sort of dark and concerned looking in her face. Even the fire still just to my right was really dim. And she said, sit with me. And I sat down with her, and we sat there. It's been hard to put this into English. I've been racking my brains about how to actually really say what I witnessed, because it's almost it's words can't actually describe to the extent, but I'm going to try. So anyway, we're sitting there by the fire, and she says to me, she goes, you need to look at the fire. So I'm looking at the fire, and she was like, take deep breaths, take very, very deep breaths. So I'm sitting there, and I'm taking big hailing breaths in and breathing out deeply, and I'm looking into the fire, and I'm starting to feel more peaceful, less in despair. And she was like, just keep looking at the fire, and keep remembering your purpose. What's your question? And my question, I'd been racking what my question was going to be for months up until this point. And in the end, I found that the best question I could ask was something that wasn't really about me. It was actually about how can I forgive. And to be specific, it was how can I forgive my dad? So I repeated this question in my mind, and in the real world, physically as well, repeated it and staring into the fire. And parts of my body started to ache slightly, and I got this incredible pain in the centre of my back. And I told her, I said, oh God, I'm in such severe pain. And she's like, where? And I said, in my back. So she leaned forward, and I leant forward, still looking at the fire, and she massaged my back. And I felt it. I felt this pain just rising up from my back up to my neck. And then all of a sudden I thought, I need to throw up, and I threw up violently. The most I've ever thrown up in my entire life into a bag, just awfully, out of my nose, everywhere, just fully, like my entire body was rejecting. Anyway, shortly from that, I had my head hung down, and I was feeling pretty bad after all that throwing up, but good that it got out of my body. And she said, right, she's like, come back, look, think about your purpose. She was like, look at the fire again, look at the fire. And I'm staring at the fire, and I'm starting to feel more at peace. The fire is actually lighter now. It's not dim anymore. It's how it kind of should be, or you'd imagine a fire at night to look like. And I'm looking into the fire, and I'm asking the question over and over. And I'm looking in there, nothing's really happening, but I start looking at the logs, and I recognise that they're snakes, but happy snakes, just resting in the fire. Some laying there with their tongues out, just peacefully. And with that, I felt peace as well. I was just relaxed, and I kept the deep breathing going on. She was like, keep asking your question. I asked my question, and I closed my eyes, and I saw lots of blue dots on the inside of my eyes, just pinging away, just randomly dotting around. And that must have lasted, it's hard to know time scale here. Actually, it could have lasted a lot longer or a lot less than I realised, but it felt maybe like a minute or so of these little blue dots firing away on the inside of my eyelids. Anyway, I carry on looking at the fire, and I'm looking, and I'm asking, how can I forgive my dad? How can I do it? And all of a sudden, I felt kind of a presence around me, and I heard an actual voice, and it wasn't what I was expecting to hear. I didn't know what to expect. I thought maybe a big explanation about something, but actually all I heard is your dad's a very, very sick man, in a woman's voice, a woman, but a different woman to the one that was sitting next to me. And Dad's a very sick man, and with that I sort of, panicked a little bit, and I came back to reality, and I looked to my right, and there was a man there that we'd already been pre-warned that was on the same journey, but he was a drug addict. And the shaman beforehand had warned me and everyone else that some people that you see are going to be very, very distressed, and not to focus on their journey, just to focus on your own, because if you focus on theirs, it can be very distressing. Some people are in a very, very bad way from taking ayahuasca. And I looked at this man, and he was laying on the floor, fully convulsing. There was 4 people standing around him, sort of semi-restraining him, sort of from injuring himself, and one guy making sure his airways were open. And I looked at him, and I thought, oh, that's my dad right there. He's sick. That's all it is. He's just sick. It's not really him. It's this illness that he has. And with that, I looked at this guy, and he was flapping around on the floor like a fish. Great, like so much movement going on, and I thought, oh, I really hope this doesn't happen to me. And the woman that was sitting next to me sort of saw that I was gazing away from the fire over there, and she goes, "Don't come back here. Come back. Look back at the fire. Look back." And I thought, okay, right, so I'm going to look back at the fire. And I thought, well, okay, I'm going to go back into this. I'm going to look back at the fire. So I did. And I didn't really have a question to ask anymore, but I still felt this presence here. And this presence looked at me again. Not a person, just a presence. Something was there. And she said, I heard the voice again, and this woman's voice said, "Look at the shadows." And I was thinking, what's she talking about, shadows? And I was looking around, and I thought, oh, the rocks in front of me that separate me from where the fire. And I was like, oh yeah, there's shadows behind the rocks. And she said to me, the darkness hides in the shadows. It runs and hides in the shadows. But the light is the light, and the light is fire. And I'm looking into the fire, and the fire's changing. It turned into almost like a volcano, and it's just erupting with power. And all this light just coming out of it, and all the shadows disappear. There's no more shadows, even behind the rocks. And I look down at my body, and my body's just immersed with light. All this light's just pounding into my body. I couldn't feel it. I just visually, I see all this light just passing all the way through my body, and I could see inside myself. And I saw this darkness that was clinging on. It was holding on right in the core of my stomach, and it wanted to stay there, but it couldn't prevail, and it came up almost like resembled almost a human, and it just came up through my body into my chest and then just fired out of my chest into the fire like a light speed, just gone into the fire. And as soon as that happened, the fire just dimmed and it went back to kind of like what you'd expect a fire to look like in reality. And I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, whew. I'm breathing very, very deeply. This time, not even consciously. Like I'm panicked almost, and I sort of, my breath settles a little, and I feel overwhelming happiness. And I looked at the woman sitting next to me, and I said, "I love you." And she looked at me and she's like, "I love you too." And I said, "But no, I truly, deeply love you." And she said, I know, and I truly, deeply love you too." And in that moment, I'd never felt love like that. I'd never said it in any point in my entire life. If I'd said I loved you or I loved something, I never felt it to that extent. It was so deep, and I meant it so much. It was absolute truth, and I was absolutely sure in every fibre of my being that I've just witnessed the truth. Anyway, I'm looking at her and she's smiling at me. And she says, look back into the fire, don't look at me. And I look back into the fire, and I'm looking at it, and I just feel peaceful. And I'm looking into the fire, and I close my eyes, and I start going into almost like a dream. The what was going on around me sort of faded away, and I saw a man, I think a Maori man, maybe New Zealand or a Hawaiian Islander man, sitting on a beach, and he was playing a ukulele. And he was so relaxed, he was masculine, strong, very big, strong man with tattoos all over his body. And he's sitting on the beach playing his ukulele, completely present and smiling, just happy. And he's looking at me, and I just feel happiness looking at him. And I think, this guy's someone special. And with that, the visions changed. I saw these face masks, almost like I'd say happy Balinese wooden masks. And they were wobbling in the air, just psychedelic wobbling, and it made me laugh. It made me laugh so hard, in fact, that I put my head down, and I could hardly breathe. I was laughing, and the most I've ever laughed in my life. And the woman next to me, "Hey, come back." She was just like, "You need to breathe. You're not breathing. You're laughing too much." And I came back, and I looked back into the fire, and I saw the same man again, and he's sitting there, still the same, playing his ukulele on the beach, and he's smiling. And he's happy. I can see he's just happy inside. And I felt like I knew him. It was strange. I felt like it was a memory I already had, but I couldn't recall when it could have happened. But I knew I respected him. I respected this man. And I just looked at him playing. I couldn't even hear the music he was playing. Nothing. It was quiet. There was silence, but I just saw him visually. Anyway, he disappeared, and the fire came back, and I'm staring back into the fire again, and I see all the snakes in the fire, still peaceful, but they'd changed, they'd moved positions, they were looking different, but still peaceful, happy snakes, just resting in the fire. And I thought, I'm sorry, I start getting lost. I made notes. I made notes here. I just wrote it down, as I could over the last couple of days when it came to me, all the things that I saw, because I knew that I couldn't recall everything in one sitting. Anyway, I sat there and I was looking into the fire, and I felt the parts of my body that hurt from past injuries or sporting. And I looked at them and I felt them tingling, and it was kind of painful but pleasurable as well, like just tingling sensation. And I looked down at my knees, and I put my head by my knees, and I apologised. I apologised to my knees because they were hurting. And from years and years of so much sport and not taking care of them, they were in pain. And the same with my back. I put my hand behind my back and touched my back and thought, why haven't I looked after you? And I looked back at my knees, and I just apologised. I just apologised to my knees for all that I haven't looked after them at all over all those years. Just doing sports, being so active, and never stretching, never warming up, cooling down in any aspect. Anyway, I felt this sickness in my stomach as well. That's from a dietary issue. I could feel how sick it was, and I thought, why haven't I haven't explored this dietary issues? You know, like I've known that I've had dietary issues for years, and I've never bothered to even try to work out what's wrong. I just eat whatever I eat, and I do what I do, and I suffer the consequences. And why do I do that? You know? And I looked back at the fire, and then I looked back at my hand again, and I looked at my hand, and the bones that I've broken in my arm and my hand over the years, and particularly my hand, actually, from unfortunately having to fight a grown man when I was a child, you know, and the bones all in my hand, and the kind of deformity that my hand has now compared to my other one from all that fighting, and the bones breaking, and then they're not healing properly, and they were just glowing, and they tingled, and I could see the bones, and I was looking at them, and I just apologised. Again, I apologised to my hands. I said, why did I carry on fighting when I knew my bones were broken, and I still punched, and I still fought, and just made it worse, and left them in a sorry state, you know, needing help, and I didn't even bother to get it help. I visited a hospital. There's not much they could do. They just said, well, it's lots of small bone breaks. You're going to have to just tie your fingers together. They tie my fingers together and let it heal naturally. And it healed not in the same shape as what my other hand is. Anyway, I just apologised to myself, and I cried, and I thought, well, why haven't I looked after myself? Why haven't I done this? It's a terrible mistake of mine, you know? Oh. Anyway, I've lost myself here. Anyway, from that point, now what I've just described there, I think must have happened over a lot longer period than what I realised. There must have been so much more that I don't recall, because even by this time I've just been talking for 17 minutes now. The whole night had passed. It was actually becoming daylight, and in that time I'd taken the initial ayahuasca, and I'd taken 2 more hits of it, smaller amounts. The first 2 made me vomit horrendously, the first one. Whew. But the third time I took it took me a while. I sat there, and I couldn't put it in my mouth, and the shaman was standing next to me and said, this is medicine, this is part of the process, you need to take it, you need to be strong, you need to take this medicine. And the word medicine, it was funny, before the ayahuasca, I always referred to it as a drug, and some people do, it depends on your opinion, because, you know, it is a hallucinogenic drug, more or less, depending on how you look at it. And I heard this word medicine. Everyone that ever took it and spoke about it said medicine. And at that moment, I thought, you know what, this is medicine. This is medicine. And that moment, I felt the block in which I couldn't take it. I just drank it, no problem, the third time. I just, thought I'd touch in on that throughout that night, 3 times. Anyway, it's becoming morning, and I'm just sitting contemplating now. The effects have worn off quite a lot. The heavy visuals and the deep feelings have gone, and I'm just contemplating at that time. And I'm thinking, why haven't I looked after myself over all this time? You know, like I've not actually cared about myself at all throughout my whole adult life. I've actually done things which I've never told people that have put myself in danger. Every time I climb a mountain or hike a mountain, and I've hiked hundreds of them all over the world, and I've stood there at the edge. Every time I've found a point in which I've stood there and I've put my toes over the edge of a cliff, of a mountain, every time, and I've just looked down, and I've stood there for a few minutes just looking down, just feeling the distance to the floor. It's almost suicidal in some ways, but not. I don't want to die. I'm not gonna kill myself. I just stand there, almost like thinking if it happens, it happens, but I'm not gonna actually step. And I've done that hundreds of times. And when I surf, I love it so much. I love surfing, but I go out sometimes surfing on bigger waves, and it terrifies me. And I mean fully terrifying. Sometimes I get taken down by a wave, and I am pure panic under the water. You know, I'm gasping for air underneath the waves, and I come up, and I'm gasping for my last point of air, and I grab hold of my surfboard at times, and I'm fully shaking, and I'm panicked, and I need to get out of this spot that I'm in. And then I put myself back into that time and time again. I go back again the same day, boom, 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 put myself in that same stressful situation that I hate. My body hates it, my mind hates it, but I do it, and I do it time and time again. And something else, I've never even spoke of this, but another thing that I do when there's a storm, and I've done this in many countries, especially tropical countries, because you get good storms. I go out in the ocean when there's a thunderstorm. There's no one on the beach ever. They're all away in their homes, and I'll walk down to the sea, and often with my surfboard if I have one at that moment, and I'll paddle out into the ocean, maybe 100 meters out from the beach. Maybe there's waves in which I could surf, maybe it's just big, messy, unsurfable waves everywhere, and some rolling over me. I have to duck dive some, and I watch the thunder. I watch the lightning and hear the thunder, and I actually don't care if it comes to me. I don't care. And I'll see it out at sea, sometimes close. I've had lightning strikes come down only hundreds of meters away from me, you know. And I just don't care. I just sit there and watch it, and I enjoy it. And there's only been one time I've ever done that in my life. I was still contemplating this, and I was still under the effects, but I didn't fully realise. And there's only one time in my life where a storm actually scared me, and I paddled as hard as I could back to the beach, and it took me ages to get back to the beach. And the moment I got back, the storm was right on me. I mean, the rain coming down so hard, it was hurting. Even when I was in the water, I couldn't see where I was paddling because the splashback from the rain was incredible. Maybe I kept my eyes closed. I paddled blind all the way back to the beach. And then I ran up the beach, and I looked around me, and I was inside a storm. This is a real thing. This isn't a dream. This happened in Nicaragua. This happened 2019. This happened. And I ditched my surfboard on the beach. And there was a big log on the beach, and I just strapped the leash around it so it would stay there. And then I had to run back through a forest back to where I was staying, and it's in a very, very small place. And I ran barefoot through that forest, full sprint all the way back through the rain, through the wind. The wind was howling, the trees were creaking and moving, and I got back to where I was staying, and I stayed there all night. And the next day very early the next morning, it was still almost dark. It was still dark actually when I went back. And there was there was hundreds of trees that had fallen down in this storm. It was a real storm. It was severe. You know, like there was even structures on the beach, concrete structures that had been made and placed there, and they were destroyed. They were in rubble. It was a real powerful storm, and I was in it. I put myself in that storm. I could have easily died. In fact, how I didn't die that day, I have no idea, if I'm honest. I don't know how I made it back unscathed, but I did. And I was just still in a dream, contemplating these things, and I just realised that I just don't care about myself. And why? I'm important. Why have I not cared about myself? You know, and I've been so restless, and I've ran all over the world. You know, really, but it's come from a place of restlessness, not happiness. You know, like all the places I've been, most of the world, I've travelled most of the world, all from restlessness. I had to just constantly go in my mind. I wake up, I need to run. I okay, I need to go to this next place. How am I going to get there? I'm going to run there. I'm not going to take a bus. I'm running to that place. This mountain, I'm not just going to walk up it. I'm running up this freaking mountain. You know, this wave, I'm going to this place. Right, next place, I'm going there. I'm going to this next place. I'm hiking this mountain. I'm surfing these waves. You know, I'm swimming with these animals. I'm doing it all. I'm not stopping. I've got so much drive. But it's restlessness. It's not really came from a happy place at all. And it's been amazing that I've done those things, you know, like, and I've been able to, and I've stepped out of what I know and I've done it, but I'm not any happier. I'm not actually, I haven't been happy all these years. I've not been happy at all. And I feel it now. You know, there's been 4 days since the ayahuasca. Oh, hang on, before I get onto that, I'll tell you the last part of it. I didn't realise I was still in a dream and I was actually dancing by the fire, but terribly. I don't know what I was dancing, but I could see my body moving. And a guy came up to me and said, hey, you need to come back now. And I didn't want to. You know, I looked at him and I felt a bit of anger almost, because no, I don't. He says, no, you need to come back, because you need to breathe. You need to do breath work with me. And he showed me the breath work and was lifting our hands in the air and breathing deep and letting the energy flow to the floor, touching the floor and going back again. And I did this for about half an hour and I came back. I was back to reality. Back to what I knew, what you'd know as normal. And I heard the birds chirping in the trees and some flying over, and there's forest all around. And I looked around at everyone and they're all talking about their experience and they're asking me, hey, what did you see? What did you experience? And I was like, I can't say. Oh, this is what I did. And I was like, I have got nothing to tell you. I'm still in it, right? This is still it. And I don't know how they could recall it so quickly, because I couldn't speak of it straight away. It's taken me days to process. And I'm there. And anyway, the drug addict I mentioned, the one that was really bad, I was standing with a couple people and they were talking, and he woke up. He was actually asleep at that time, and he woke up. And he was a different man. I couldn't believe the person I was looking at. Before he went into the ayahuasca, he was slumped in his chair, miserable. And I looked at him and I thought, he was listening to music as well while the shaman was talking. You know, he was rude. And I looked at him and I thought, what is this guy doing here? He doesn't look like he even wants to be here. And then, you know, I saw him convulsing during the early parts of my experience. And then he got up. And he had the biggest smile on his face. I've never seen anything like it. He was lit up, his full face, smiling. And he went round and he hugged everyone. And he said nothing. Why? He just hugged me. He hugged the other 9 people that were with us, the shaman's wife. And the people there helping as well. Everyone that was there, even the ones that were there just to help and make sure people were safe. And we're all looking at him. And he just said one line. And he said, I danced with the angels. And then he left. He just walked away and went home. I never saw him again. And I looked at another guy, the guy that helped me with the breath work next to me, and I said, this is amazing. And he looked at me and said, yes, it is. I said, this man, he's a completely different man that I've seen today. He's not the same person even. I hardly even recognised him. And he said, this is the magic of it. He's like, this is what it is. You know, he's healed. He's going home. He's not. I doubt. It's very unlikely he's ever going to touch drugs again. And I was just amazed by that. And I went home. And it was 4 hours in the end to get back to where I was staying. So it wasn't too bad. I was on a bus and I slept a bit on the bus because I'd been kind of conscious all night. I was knackered. And I got back to here where I'm living right now, and I went into my room, and I've spent the first 2 of the last 4 days I've been asleep, essentially. When I went to bed that night, I actually slept for about 17 hours straight. I woke up at 1 p.m. the following day, having gone to bed, I think 9 o'clock, something like that, and I laid. Even all day, I laid in bed. The only thing I got up for was some food, and I slept again all night. Slept great all night again, and the next day I relaxed all day and I slept all night again, peacefully. And on the 3rd day, which was yesterday, I woke up quite early, like 5 a.m. And I felt so happy, and I still do. I feel so deeply happy and relaxed right now. And I cried so much in the morning. Yesterday morning I got up and I just cried and cried, and it was tears of joy, but it was unstoppable. I sat there and cried, and I had things to do yesterday. I had to pay my rent. I had to go to the bank. I didn't have any cash. I had to get some groceries because I had no food left in my room at all. And I had to just go outside and do all those things. And I did it all crying. All of it. 3 hours I was out for. And I was friggin' tears coming down my face, and I couldn't stop it. And I wasn't even sad, I was just happy. And everyone I met, you okay? Tout bien? Tout bien? I heard this all the time. You okay? Are you okay? Are you good? Are you good? Yeah, I'm great. I'm really, really happy, actually. And I'm crying. I went to the bank, I went to the grocery store, I paid my landlord currently where I'm staying, the owner of the apartment that I'm renting, and even she was like, you okay? I was like, yeah, fine. And I went back into my room and I cried more, and I sat there all day yesterday. For the rest of the day I ate lots of delicious food that I bought. I walked to the beach later that day. I wasn't crying at that point, and I just looked at some people surfing. Great waves yesterday, and do you know what? I didn't even have the desire to get in the water. I didn't even have the energy, really. I just sat there and I watched other people surfing, and I just felt so much joy, happiness. And I walked to the beach. I caught what was a sunset. It's quite cloudy here, and I just walked up the beach. It got dark. I walked and walked. I came home last night. I sat on my phone for a while, and then I went to bed. I was asleep again by 9 o'clock last night, and I woke up this morning. And today's the first day that I've kind of woken up and felt normal, should I say, actually. I feel like I've got my energy back. I don't feel sleepy anymore. But I'm left with this deep peace. And I don't really know where to go from here right now. But I know wherever I go, it's just going to be okay. I'm just okay. And it's all right. I'm going to stay here a while. I'm going to enjoy. I'm going to just keep moving. I'm going to carry on traveling as I do. But it feels different. I feel different. I don't feel the drive. I don't want to put myself in any danger. I don't even feel the drive of going in the ocean, and I have that every day. Every day I get up and I want to be in the ocean. That's my thing. I'm there, you know. I want to be amongst the water. I want to be surfing. I want to see all the fish. I want to feel the warmth of the water here all over my body. But today I don't really feel that need. Maybe it'll come back, I don't know. But I know that life's just going to be all right. And it's the first time in my entire life that I know that I'm just going to be okay, you know? I don't feel like I'm fighting anything. I don't feel like I'm racing. I'm able just to sit and be peaceful. I've needed it so much. I really have. Oh, you wouldn't believe how restless I have been over these years. My word. There's been a point in which I was running like a million miles an hour. I was either right, I work. I save. I travel. I see everything. I'm meeting everybody. I'm doing every experience any human being can do. I'm doing it all. And I have pretty much, not everything, but I've done a lot of what any human being can possibly experience. I've done already, and I don't really feel that much of a drive of running around that much anymore. But we'll see. I'm here in Ecuador right now. Sometimes the start of September. I don't know what date it is today. What is the date today? The 6th or 7th of September? Something like that. It's a Tuesday. I know I'll be in South America a while yet. I like the heat. I'm not going to go back to Europe. Not this season anyway. It's winter coming now. That would be ridiculous. If I do go back to Europe or England, it won't be till spring. So another 6 months or more. Maybe I'll go back to Australia when they open. They're still not open. Maybe I'll go back there, I don't know. But either way, whatever happens, I'm just going to enjoy and stay here in Ecuador a little while, travel the rest of South America slowly, but or not even. I don't even really care. I might just stay here. Stay here until I leave. I don't really care. It doesn't really matter where I go now. I'm happy where I am. And that's it. I don't know. That's that, really. I don't know what more to say about it. That was my experience with ayahuasca, and I truly believe that anyone that's got any troubles, even if you don't think you have, I feel like the entire world should do this. Every human being should just do this one time. Just look internally. Even me, I didn't know how troubled I was. I listened to people, but you just don't. When you actually have a problem, it's you almost deny. You know, I've been told before, from relationships, friendships, that like, Callum, you know, I think you got problems, mate. You know, not many people have said it, but some have. And I've always been like, what are you on about, mate? I'm just living my life, you know? I'm just living. I ain't got problems, you know? Doesn't matter if I'm restless, I'm doing things with it. Everyone should do this, everybody in the world. I think the entire world would be different if everybody took a week out to come to South America, or if it was legalized and around the world. Can you believe something as spiritual as this is illegal in many countries, including my own? And yet things so destructive like alcohol are legal. You can just... That's ridiculous. I don't know why that's the case. It's almost like there's just sickness everywhere. But anyway, I'm waffling now. I'm nearly 40 minutes in. I should probably give everyone a break. But whoever's still listening, if anybody, because I'm not sure I would have listened to 37 minutes of somebody waffling on about a spiritual experience. If anyone is still listening, thank you. I love you. I love myself. Everything's going to be okay. I'm here in Ecuador and I'm enjoying life. And I guess if you are anyone that's still watching, you care about me. So I care about you too. Thank you very much. Write to me, please. I'll write back. FaceTime me. I don't mind. I want to talk to people. I want to share to everybody what I've seen and how I feel. All the people that love me and all the people that I love. So, take care.